Alright, welcome back, people, to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the Dragon MBT70 slash KPZ70 project. Left off with the completion of construction. Everything's done, ready to go, and all I have to do now is start priming. A real quick note on that. Now, as if any of you watch any of my videos, you know that I am a major proponent of priming. Generally, I have used Vallejo primers, and then I have also begun using the Badger Stynel Res primer. Examples: primer, Stynel Res. Now, this time, however, in my constant quest of trying to make life easy, I have decided I am not going to use primer this time. If any of you watch very many videos, you'll know that some people skip primer and they'll just put on a base coat, or sometimes they'll just paint right onto the kit. I like to have a base, mainly so I can check for flaws and stuff, but the reason I'm changing from using my usual primer is because, honestly, it doesn't matter what I do. It sprays well and it works great, but it is acrylic, and from time to time, especially when it's warmer like it is today, I'll have problems with tip dry, which is not that big a deal because it's just a matter of getting a Q-tip and taking care of it. But more importantly, the primer will start to skin up inside of the airbrush, and it makes cleaning a real headache. And it's just, for stuff like this, an armor kit, I'm going to experiment this time and see if it's really necessary. I went for years without priming, and I started priming and I liked it, but it just, sometimes the very nature of acrylics, they have those tendencies, and you either love them or hate them. I'm not a hater of them, but I'm beginning to not be quite so much a lover of them. So anyway, I decided that I am going to just give it a base coat, dark base coat, and for that dark base coat I am using Tamiya, which is currently my favorite paint because you don't have the problems with it skinning over. I'm going to do a video in the future about my thoughts on these different acrylic paints and stuff and talk about it, but suffice it to say, when you have Vallejo or Stynel Res, something like that in your cup, and you're doing a big job, by the time you get done, you put your cleaner in there, it pretty much just sits. You have to take a brush or a Q-tip or something and scrub to get that skin off, and don't dare let it get down in the channel where the air goes through, or you're going to have some clogs. Whereas the Tamiya, since it's not a water-based acrylic, you don't have that problem. You put your cleaner in, or even 91% alcohol, and it dissolves the paint that's in there without it coming off in chunks. So the likelihood of getting a clog is much less likely. So that's just a quick aside there on the Tamiya versus acrylics. So anyway, I'm using NATO Black. I've mixed myself up a little bottle because I hate to have to keep add more. So I've got about this much in one of these handy dandy dropper bottles here, and mixed up I generally use 2-to-1, 2 parts paint, 1 part thinner for spraying, and get good results. So I've got it mixed up here so I can refill my airbrush if I need to. If I don't, then I'll have some extra for when I need to do something else. So I'm going to get this stuff ready here and start shooting some base coat on here. Okay, as you can see here, I've got the base coat of NATO black on everything. So the next part will be to paint, and I'm going to use NATO green for that, at the suggestion of a couple of my online friends, because that would be more the correct color for the time period and for the type of vehicle. So anyway, I'll let this cure up really good and then come back and do some painting. Alright, before I actually start painting this KPZ70, I wanted to go over a really quick refresher from a video I did some time ago on painting wheels. So you got your wheel here, and what I did is skipped primer, and I just went with NATO black, which is a good color for the rubber on armored vehicles. So the trick is now is to paint the wheel, the metal rim portion of the wheel. Now there's a number of ways to do it. There's pre-made masks for a lot of kits, which to me is, if you're going to build a lot of the same vehicle, or say if you're going to build a lot of Dragon kits based off of the Panzer IV chassis, and you can reuse some of the masks or masking tools for the wheels, then that's, that works. But for a one-off vehicle like this, it's kind of rough. So your options are limited. Now, one popular method, and it's one I used to use, is using a circle template. Now, the circle template works fine. As you can see, I've done it before. I did it on a Panzer Kampfwagen Mark IV based vehicle, as a matter of fact. But part of the problem is sometimes they don't fit exactly, which isn't that big a deal, because once you do washes and weathering and stuff like that, it kind of blurs the delineation between the tire and the wheel. But it might not be precise, especially if you're using, like in this case, this is English, or American, or whatever you call it, Imperial maybe, I don't know what it is, but it's inches. It's not based off of centimeters and meters and all that. It's inches, feet, and increments therein. So it might not fit exactly. So if I had one that had millimeters, it might match a little bit better. But I stick it in here, in this one, it's pretty close, but there's quite a bit of slop. So then I move it on to the next one, and that's pretty close, but there's still a bit of slop going on there for overspray onto the tire part. So that one there is just a little tiny bit too small. So there's that, and then the fact that you have to hold it in place, you spray it, then you move on to the next wheel. Now, it works great, and I've done it before myself, but I'm one of those assembly line kind of people, so I came up with another method of doing it, and I'm going to briefly demonstrate it. From FlexiFile, I ordered this circle cutting tool. It's got a titanium blade, very nice, very sharp, and using it for cutting tape works perfect. With a nice fine point, adjustable, and I can cut very small circles with quite a bit of accuracy with this thing. I've used it a number of times. So here's what I do. I have just a plain, inexpensive dial caliper made by General Tools. This one is. And what I do is I take the wheel, and using the dial caliper, I will measure from one side of the rim to the other. Okay? And in this case, it is, digital. If you got a digital caliper, it'll probably even give you a better measurement. But in this case, it's 18 millimeters. Okay? So if I had a circle template that had 18 millimeter holes on it, I could use that. Or I could do this. So I got 18 millimeters. So what I do is I take this, and then let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Whoops. Okay, so I've got 18 millimeters on my scale here. So what I do is I take my circle cutter and place the point on the 0, I loosen this up and line it up on 9 millimeters, which is half of 8 millimeters, and tighten it down, making sure it doesn't move. Okay, so I now have a cutter that will make a circle of 18 millimeters. Okay, so that's cut. And then I take my handy dandy hobby knife, slice it, and then carefully, you kind of got to be careful because sometimes this masking tape stretches, so I kind of do it all the way around like that, and voila, I have a circle template. Then all I have to do is carefully put it around the rim thusly. Now if you find when you've peeled it off that you've stretched it, it's very simple. All you do is just cut one side like that, and then put it around and overlap it ever so slightly, and you now have a mask. Okay, I do all my wheels, get them all ready to go, and then it's a matter of spray, 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 spray each wheel, and I am ready to go. Now the nice thing about that is if you were doing it in the reverse for some reason, like you painted the metal, then you can use this remaining circle, put it on top of the rim, and then you can paint the tire part. So that's just a real quick note on how I mask my wheels. I have a standalone video showing how to do this earlier on in my videos on my YouTube channel, so if you ever want to take a look at it again, you don't have to scan to the middle of this video to see what's going on. So anyway, with that, I'm going to mask all these wheels and then start spraying some paint.